Hello and welcome to the SaaS Growth Podcast. This week we're here with Rao Cherjala, the founder of Xspeed Software and SaaSLogic. The SaaSLogic is a startup company that's focused on making your SaaS's billing and subscription management easy. So how are you today, Rao?
I'm good, Carl. Thank you. Thanks for letting me to be on your show.
Thanks for being here, man. Let's start how I always start this. Run me through SaaSLogic and how it came to be.
Yeah. So SaaSLogic is a subscription management and billing platform. What we're seeing in the industry is a lot of business models are moving towards subscription from the concept of buying and keeping forever. But so everybody needs to handle subscription. It may sound like simple on the surface, but as you start peeling the layers, there's quite a bit of complexity because you need to be able to. Subscription is basically you need to be able to really discover your price point very easy, right? That means you want to be able to introduce different pricing models. You want to see what sticks and what doesn't stick. So it is almost like an experiment. So if you have a flexible pricing subscription management platform that allows you to really create different pricing models as and when you need, I think you will be able to discover that price point very quickly. Otherwise, it's going to take forever. So that's what we wanted to solve. We wanted to allow our customers to really experiment with their pricing and then find the price point very quickly. And also, subscription management the complexity comes because every time you allow your customer to really change the pricing subscriptions, upgrade, downgrade, and all those things, it'll have financial downstream impact on your financial system. Like, if you're using QuickBooks or NetSuite or things like that, it will have an impact on what in your accounting systems as well. We provide the whole integration with all these things, and we allow you to really provide flexible pricing points. That's how we make it easy to our customers so that they can go to market very quickly without getting bogged down with the complexities of subscription management.
Yeah. So how do you help people manage that complexity? How does SaaSLogic get into that process?
So we have a features like, let's say like I said, you have a CRM product, right? It may have 20 features, right? And you don't want to sell all the 20 features in one bundle because your customers may not need it, right? Some customers may need 5 features, basic features. Some customers may need 10 features. The other customer may need all 20 features. So you want to be able to build your pricing models based on that. So what we do is we allow you to redefine all the 20 features that you have for your product. First you come onto our platform, define the product, define all the 20 features that you have. And then we also allow you to really create pricing packages. And each package can have these features. And we allow our customers to really subscribe to those. When customers subscribe to your product, to one of these packages, we basically just hold that information and manage for you, right?
You
So that's how
basically
we cover it.
decouple pricing from the product, but also have individual features to turn off and on, like flags. So that sounds really, I can definitely see how that would be very difficult to do by yourself, especially when you're managing an entire subscription payment system at the same time,
right?
For sure.
And we also provide APIs so that when the customer logs into your system, you really want to know what kind of features they subscribe to. We have APIs, so you can call those APIs. We'll be able to tell you in real time what are the features are available for this
customer. You provide an analytics layer as well on top of that, so you can see how your customers are actually interacting with paid features. So to see what moves the needle. Is that the idea?
API layer. So that you can integrate your product with our system so that you know exactly what customer has subscribed to, what are features they should be accessing on your system.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Obviously, subscriptions is quite a core part of a lot of businesses, and it's very important. What are the benefits of outsourcing that to someone like you and SaaSLogic versus keeping it in-house?
It's so subscriptions. It's like you want to get to your market faster, right? If you really want to do subscriptions, even if you want to build a basic system, you're looking at 6 months, right? And then on top of that, as you start going along the journey of your product, you're going to come across scenarios where you have to accommodate new scenarios. So you want to constantly spend your development effort not only on core product, you're also going to spend on the subscription. The subscription management doesn't really add any value to your core product. Your customers don't care about your subscription and things like that. I'm sure you want to provide the best customer experience, but if that is not, your focus is really to make your CRM product the best. You're not going to build a lot of features into subscription management. So it's going to be secondary for you. So you'll give it to somebody like us, where subscriptions is the first feature of a product, right? We'll be the best. You're going to evolve with the industry. We bring all the features that are required to provide the best customer experience when it comes to subscription management. And you focus on providing the best customer experience for your core features, right? That way, you'll be the best. You're not going to get distracted, and you can go to market fast. You can react to your customers for your core features faster.
You did mention before about experimenting with different price points and different subscriptions or models. What's your experience with actually doing that and doing it in a way that doesn't completely throw off existing customers with constant price changes and all sorts?
Yeah. So what we do, the way we do is, when you come up with a new pricing, you still have to honor the pricing that you provided to your previous customer. So when I say you come up with a new pricing, you just have to provide that in such a way that you honor the whole system for the people that already subscribed. And from going forward, you're just retiring the existing pricing model and then providing the new one. So that actually, we experiment with that in our own product actually. That is very critical. You don't want to surprise your customers by changing the whole price for a day, saying that, hey, from today onwards, you have to pay more or whatever, right? You just need to honor the existing pricing. Going forward, you need to be able to introduce the new model and then you retire the old one. That actually we are doing in our own product actually.
Have you got any advice for people who are trying to find that right pricing for their product and how they might go about working out whether they need to charge more or less, or even just change the packages?
Yeah, that's what, right? Yeah, you basically, my suggestion is always start with simple models, right? Don't make it too complex. And then you start trying to add, slice and dice your features. Have the simplest plan first when you're really going into the market. And then once you get some traction, then start creating a more complex scenarios, right? One of the differentiation that we bring to the market product is we handle any complex billing scenario, right? Because we don't come out with some set of parameters. These are the only parameters that you need to use to model your pricing plan. You can define your own pricing parameters, right? For example, number of users. That might be a parameter that you want to use for your product. That may be irrelevant for somebody else, right? And even maybe amount of storage could be a pricing parameter for some other product. You will be able to define those things, right? We allow you to define your own parameters, and we allow you to redefine your pricing plan. And we have some flat models, fixed price models, and then tiered models. We allow all these scenarios. But my suggestion is, don't start with the complex, a tiered model or whatever, if your product doesn't need it initially. Start with something simple where people can really adapt. And then once you've got some traction, then experiment with the complex scenario.
I suppose it makes sense if you're using something like SaaSLogic and let's say you start with even with only one plan, you might use that sort of feature specific thing to work out where you might be able to break out another plan and what actually provides value to your users in a way that they're actually willing to pay for it. Exactly. I suppose that's quite an important little thing, that a little bit of analytics that can be really helpful in breaking out those payments.
Yeah. For example, SaaSLogic, we're trying to provide all the features to everybody at this point, right? If you have different levels of revenue, we just charge different amounts. But otherwise, we are not really trying to confuse. I get this, I don't get that. We don't do that. We just say, keeping it simple, just go with all the features that we have. So
We've definitely all seen the models, like these subscription models, where what they provide in the more expensive plans, you just don't care
Yeah.
about. Oh, you can
Yes.
let you
Yeah.
color the header blue, and it's like, who cares? It's not important to me. Like, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
obviously no one buys this higher plan. So it's a waste of effort in that respect. So you've
Hmm.
also got, again, you also founded Xspeed, which is a custom software development company. So
Yeah.
you've had years and years of experience working
Hmm.
in software, working with SaaS,
Yeah.
and importantly, scaling SaaS. Can you run us through some of the things that you see over and over again in scaling SaaS, especially lessons that you're learning right now as you're building SaaSLogic?
Yeah, so that's true. I come from the background of software development for a long time, and then Xpeed has been in business for about 15 years. As part of Xspeed, we build SaaS products for our customers. The genesis for SaaSLogic is actually from we have observed this pattern of creating subscriptions into our customers' SaaS products, and then we said, okay, we seem to be doing this again and again, which is not a core feature of the product. So that's when we started this SaaSLogic. Going back to some of your questions about the scaling SaaS products and things like that, some of the patterns you're going to, this subscription management is one of them. You're going to see again and again, which we've abstracted out. Another thing you're going to see is most of the times when you are building a SaaS product, you start with very small and then you don't really think about the scale and you just want to put it out as quickly as possible and test it out. So you go with the MVP, right? So for the lucky companies that really graduate from MVP stage to the next level, your problems are scaling. And you never really saw all these things in the MVP stage. And you really have a lot of volume of traffic coming to you which you are not prepared for. Now you have to go back and take a look at your architecture. What is my infrastructure? Can I scale it horizontally? Right? Those things, if you did not address in the initial stages of your product development, you're going to have to really almost redo a lot of things. And some of the enterprise features, single sign-on across different identities. Like most of the customers, if you're B2B, your business customers are going to have their own identity provider, right? You don't want them to really create another user ID password in your system. Ideally, you want them to really log into their ID, and then we should be able to allow them into your product. Those things usually are not thought through initially, but that becomes a thing when you really start scaling and when you have really business customers coming. Things like that. And then also security, another thing, how you really protect your customers' information, right? Sometimes we start putting everything into your database, which is even clear. And then when you have to go for SOC 2 compliance. When you go for SOC 2 compliance, all these things have to be validated and to make sure that you're handling the customer information properly. So most of the
Get
time,
it?
initially, you don't think through all those things. Now you come and say, oh, I have to encrypt this, I have to protect these things. Those things, you have to start bringing the encryption mechanisms and then keywords and all those things into the picture. So some of these enterprise features,
Is a
if you,
huge one, actually. I've worked in
yeah,
a bunch of SaaSes, and it's the smaller ones
yeah,
definitely like almost an afterthought. And you just start doing,
yeah,
there's almost no access control on database, and any dev
yeah,
can look at production data.
right.
It's a whole thing, right?
Yeah, access controls is one aspect. Another one is data protection, how you're storing some other secure information. You probably want to create cryptography and things like that. You want to encrypt and then store in some place. We have your secrets manager and then Azure has Key Vault and things like that. You probably want to start using them as early as possible in the journey of your product development. And then if you're going to global, you also have things like GDPR compliance, right? So data residency, people, and if you have European customers, you want to make sure that you have ability to store their information in European data centers, and then vice versa in US probably we want to store here. Those kind of things are the patterns that keep coming across again and again in any SaaS product development. Everything you cannot take care of them in initial days, but anything that you can address, if you start with the right framework, you probably can address a lot of those things in the initial days, in MVP itself.
Yeah.
Right?
So once someone's like they're out of the MVP, they've got a bit of a business running now. What do you think the
Yeah.
first thing someone should do to help
Mhm.
scaling in the future?
So the scaling is today it's easy to get infrastructure, right? Because of the public cloud. So you want to make sure that your application is horizontally scalable, that you want to make sure those features are there. And once those features are there, if there's always a discussion whether it's cost effective to use cloud or on-prem servers. It's debatable, but in your early days, most of the companies that are coming into scene today, they don't have a lot of infrastructure experience, right? Most of the modern SaaS companies, they probably have never seen how a server looks like, right? They're just using public cloud. So public clouds are probably the thing that you want to use. So you want to build solutions in such a way that you can use this public cloud and then scale as quickly as possible. Right? That way, you have elasticity. You're not over provisioning the infrastructure. At the same time, you're not under provisioning when it's required. In the retail industry, as most of us know, there's a peak season like in November and December timeframe. The traffic to your websites, if you have e-commerce website or whatever, it basically grows tremendous compared to the regular season. But in earlier days, you always prepare provision infrastructure to cater to those whatever 60, 90 days. And where it is not required, remaining period of the time, the year, right? So you're wasting your infrastructure. If you use something like cloud, you'll be able to scale it up when you need and then shrink it down when you don't need it. So you want to make sure you will be able to take advantage of cloud infrastructure. That is the first thing. And then also, if you have a really application that really needs to scale well, extremely well, you also want to look at the underlying databases that you're using. If you're using typical, something like Postgres, it's pretty scalable. It will just satisfy millions of users. But if you're just going crazy a number of users, then Postgres can also have issues because Postgres is not really a horizontally scalable database. Most of the relational databases. You want to start looking at either a NoSQL database that could be horizontally scalable, or you even have versions of relational database like Cockroach DB and then Yugabyte and things like that. They are relational databases. They can be horizontally scalable. So you want to start looking at those kind of things if you really need super scalable application.
Would you say that's a concern for most SaaS companies in their future, or is there something else you'd recommend that they focus on before they start investing in sort of infrastructure scaling?
I wouldn't say it is most of the SaaS companies. I would say these are like sort of really something like have users around the globe, and then you're kind of like a Twitter or a notification system that is being used by millions and millions of users. When user base reaches to millions of users, that's when you have to start looking at these databases, horizontally scalable databases. But I think I would say it is required for a very SaaS product, right? That's another thing we have to be careful. You don't want to use these kind of products, unless they really require it. So you need to be very conscious about your ambitions and then what your target base is, how far you're going to grow. Those things you should be really clear about, and then use the right technology. Don't use a hammer to drive the nail down.
Yeah, you use the hammer or the screw. Yeah. Okay, cool. So have you got any? We'll go back to SaaSLogic and your subscription management business. So what have you learned moving from this almost software business, this client-based business, into this to a SaaS yourself? And what lessons do you think you could share with the listeners today?
Yeah, product sale is product. First of all, I think when we are in custom solution business, which is Xspeed, most of the times we are project-based. We develop a product. After that, we tend to be there to maintain, but again, we may not be there. But our project ends. In product, when you're developing product, you need to have the mindset of there is no end date for product, right? It's a constantly evolving. So you need to really have the mindset of operation, right? When you are in a software development mode, you're project based, you're done, and then you just move on. But when you are in a product actually, you need to have the mindset of operate. You need to bring a lot of operation complexities. You need to handle those things. That is a new thing if you're coming from services. operations of the product is entirely different. Even if you're using cloud, you need to be reasonably familiar with infrastructure. You need to be able to maintain that and all. That's one thing. And then marketing, sales and marketing of products is very different from your custom software development. So in the product, actually, we need to really have, if it is a SaaS product, you want to really have a plan to really sell it in a PLG mode, meaning as much as possible. Initial days, you're not going to have an army of salespeople. If it is a sales-led growth, I think it takes a lot of investment. So if possible, you want to really make sure that people can subscribe to your product and start using it without having to go through some training or people having to sell or convince them, right? I think that's what we are trying to do. See if your product can take a PLG approach, right? That way you'll get the traction faster. And then once you start getting that traction, if you have to add some complex features where you need to have salespeople to convince, then you can add them later. If you start with the complexity first, and then if you need salespeople to really sell those things, that's, I think, going to be a little difficult. They need more capital. PLG probably the better approach possible.
This is definitely a message I've heard over and over again, is keep it as simple as possible, because it's easier to add complexity than take it away. And specifically with the subscription one, when I was talking to Lucas Freeman, he was talking about his woes about adding something like 40 currencies to a subscription, and then he added a new tier or changed a tier, and suddenly he had to go through and update all 40 of these and every single pricing thing, and it was just horrific amounts of complexity, and a simple change suddenly becomes like monstrous.
That's what I think. That's some of the complexity, especially when you're talking about changes to financial. You need to be extremely careful.
It's just the complexities can compound and multiply, and suddenly becomes a huge headache. So what have you found has worked for the low touch sales model in SaaSLogic so far? What sort of actions have you taken that have helped increase the number of signups you're getting?
What we have done is, when the initial days, we learned a lot actually from our initial days. During the product development, there's always a set of features. There is 80% of the times people need it, and then there's going to be 20% of the features that would be required very rarely. I think initially, when you started developing the product, we tried to solve every edge case. We came up with features that are actually available for the 20% of the times and things like that. Right? So most of our product screens and things like that, they are made for solving this edge case. Right? In that process, what we figured out is we made the simple and then basic things very complex. Right? So 80% of the times people just want to get started and do it. Those are simpler stuff. Without focusing on those cases, we focused more on the edge cases, trying to solve those things. And when we tried to put those in front of the customers, it was difficult for people to really just achieve what they wanted to achieve. We had to really just train them. So then we realized, we went back and then said, let's make the simple things simple and provide a way to achieve the complex thing, right? Provide some off-path approach. Just have a button or something to bring up those advanced features, and they'll be able to really achieve that. We provide a way, but they should not be coming in the way of doing the simple thing. That's one of the biggest lessons we learned. And then as we're still solving those things, and with that, we are getting closer to being a PLG motion for SaaSLogic. We're still using salespeople at this point, but I think we are very close to using a PLG motion.
You've definitely hit on, because I do a lot of SaaS onboarding optimization and landing page optimization. So you've definitely hit on a lesson that comes up over and over again about keeping things as simple as possible, and the idea that people just want to get what they want to get done, right? So and getting in the way of that in any way, shape, and form is really detrimental, especially if you have a low touch free trial sign up system with someone, they're trying it out, and then they sign up to your app because they want to do something. And if
Mm-hmm.
that's hard, that's really difficult for them to do, then they're just going to bounce. And it's really, you have a really low conversions off that. So there's definitely
Yeah.
a lot of wisdom in just trying to keep things as simple as possible, especially your main flows and your
Yes.
main value offering. So I can
Yeah.
definitely,
User experience design is actually, that's something that pretty complex. So you want to designing systems and complex backends and all that is a lot of engineering effort. It can be done. How to design your user experience in a way that your users can really understand. Uh, Sometimes that is the most complex part. Yes, user experience design of your product.
again, it's very difficult, especially with some more complex concepts to
Yeah.
create that
Yeah.
simple visualization and simple way of
Really.
doing it. There's a lot of complexity and simplicity, but
Yeah.
yeah, so there's
That's always
definitely
a challenge.
yeah, huge challenge. And I've definitely, yeah, again, I worked on apps. We were doing it was data extraction for academic papers, and it
Mhm.
turns out it's incredibly complex, the sort of requirements set there. And it was a massive challenge just working out exactly
Mm.
how, or what all the requirements were, and then how to distill that in such a way that
Mhm.
it wouldn't be an unwieldy monstrosity to actually use.
Presenting that information.
Yeah, and letting and giving them all the options they need. And as you said, you've got all these edge cases that you don't want
Mm.
to put forward, but are there and you have to address, otherwise your software doesn't work and or it breaks in 10% of cases, and that's too many. So
Yes.
there's definitely some truth in that. Right.
Yeah.
Other than that, it sounds like you're a bit of a proponent for the software itself being the main sort of salesperson for your own application and letting the software speak for itself. Do you say
Right.
you agree with that?
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. So have you found that working with salespeople, has that been valuable for you at this point, especially earlier on in the journey, as you may not know how to make the software resonate with your customers?
It is, so it's working. Today, actually, we depend quite a bit on sales people. That's working. But I think we are using more and more since we have a concrete set of features. And as we make more and more of these features simpler and simpler presentation wise, our goal is to move towards PLG motion. But today, some of the flows are a little complex. So we still depend on salespeople quite a bit.
Yeah.
We get the leads and then somebody will give a demo of the product and things like that. That's what we are doing. We are coming to a point where they'll be able to sign up and they get access to our sandbox and they will be able to play on their own. That's something that we're getting very close to. That way, your sales becomes a lot more scalable than people, right?
Would you say
Yeah,
that using salespeople early has been helpful for you guys? Because I know a lot of the challenge early on with having a landing page and making your product sell itself is that
yeah,
you don't get the opportunity to actually hear customer objections when they're
yeah.
on the page, and they'll just bounce and you don't know why. So do you think that having those salespeople and that high touch process has been helpful
I
in setting up
that's a
the
good
low touch
point
one?
actually. Yeah, that's a very good point. So very true actually. Salespeople actually have been helpful for us in that initial days because we were able to listen to our customers and understand what is missing and then some of the objections. We actually changed our product features quite a bit based on those feedback in early days. So I would agree. Salespeople have been very helpful for us initially. Uh,
Do you think you'll keep them for more enterprise customers? Because I know that's very common when you get to you have your 3 tiers and then the ask us price. Do you think you'll keep?
Well, yeah, we're going to have both approaches. I think there are going to be some simple options for people to really use it. That would be PLG, and then salespeople, I think, are going to be part of the equation for us because we need to integrate. As much as I say it is simpler to use, but there is always going to be some level of integration right between our product and then our customers' SaaS product. So that's why I think sales is always going to be involved. But our product also supports subscriptions for non-software businesses. For example, if you have a meal plan or things like that, some kind of goods that people want to receive on a monthly basis, those kind of things. Still, there's also going to be some software behind them, but we support those kind of subscriptions also, right? But anyway you go, there's going to be some sort of integration with us. Right? I think that's where I think that since that human touch is required, salespeople will be in the loop in our case, I think, most of the times.
A little while back, we touched on GDPR and ideas about running a multinational software business, which is a lot easier now with the internet, with like scalable cloud infrastructure. It's easier to even accidentally end up with a bunch of global clients. Are there any sort of pitfalls to that? And again, especially around compliance and things like GDPR and even like the American Disabilities Act and all sorts of data handling requirements. Are there any major pitfalls people should be aware of?
Yeah, it's actually complex actually to achieve when you're really a global company. Achieving GDPR is not an easy task. And most of the companies, I come from the software development background. We develop products for our customers. Initially, like I said, people don't care about GDPR and then they start developing to really serve the customers locally, right? And then they start getting customers from other regions, and then we have to follow the rules and regulations of that. I mean, Europe, instead of GDPR, you have to follow the data residency rules of Europe. When you do that, there are two ways. One is you really just make the data reside in Europe, or you just have a disclaimer saying, hey, your data is going to stay in the US, but you just consent to give us the consent so that we can host your data here. I've seen a lot of companies actually just putting a consent form and you literally just say, I agree. And then that's how they just say they are in compliance with GDPR. But if you really want to make the data stay in Europe, and then for European customers, if you want the data for US people to stay in US, it is actually, you have a complexity in your software architecture, right? So either you need to have some kind of database sharding where based on the customer's profile, you just go to that database versus this database, or you use something like Yugabyte, which is a distributed relational database. You will be able to define some kind of data residency rules based on some address and things like that. It go to the partition in Europe versus here automatically.
But if you don't already have multiple partitions in your software, surely it's not worth adding that just to separate the data.
Yeah, it's not that easy. So a lot of people just struggle to do that. That is one of the things that we provide as a service as part of Xspeed's software development. We bring some of those skills. So,
thanks for coming. It's been great chatting, Rao. Again, so you're CEO of SaaSLogic. That's Rao Cherjala. Where can people find you?
I'm on LinkedIn, Rao Chejarla. You said you find me. And then also anybody interested in SaaSLogic, we can go to SaaSLogic.io, our website. There's the contact information. You can reach us. You can reach me on LinkedIn. Thank you, Carl.
Again, thanks for coming.
It has been a good conversation.
Yeah, it's been great fun. So everyone else, we'll see you next week.